Chair. Secretary General, Chief of Staff, GOC and other staff, you're welcome here today. Secretary General, can we start off by being honest with one another? The policies that have been followed have been a disaster for the aviation services in our defence forces. We've lost search and rescue. We have a private operator providing a jet at Dublin Airport for patients every night. Then let's turn to the air traffic control issue. We're in 2025. Your department, before you ever arrived there, was aware in 2017 that there was a problem with air traffic control. In 2021, your department became acutely aware. In May of 2019, your department was aware. That was 2 pay commissions. Then in 2021, a joint working group identified crisis coming. You yourself, in March of 2021, writing to the Secretary General of the Department of Transport, identified air traffic control as the reason why the Air Corps could not have SAR. So there was nothing new in this. The 2021 study carried out jointly by your department and by the Air Corps required you to advise the Minister of the outcome of that. Was the Minister advised in 2021 that there was an impending crisis in the Air Corps?
Senator Craughwell, I just would remind you that the report I think that you're referring to is an unpublished report, so neither the Secretariat or other members would have had sight of that.
It's there. The question is there now. It needs to be answered.
Okay. I'm very happy to answer the question. So thank you very much, Senator Craughwell. Just to go back to the to 2021, this was an internal report, as the Chair has said. It's not a published report, and it was produced as a reduction, as a result of the reduction in service in 2016. It was a joint report. It was done by both ourselves and the civil and the military, and it was returned to the project sponsors in somewhere around December 21. In February 22, we had the Commission on Defence Force report, of which I've spoken earlier, and that, as you know, was a comprehensive report with 130 recommendations. So 2 months later, we had that report. Many of the actions that were in the internal report were subsumed into the Commission on Defence Forces, and that's where we're working through on those recommendations at this point in time. The specific action was taken on the cadet entry scheme and the commissioning from the ranks. But, in an overall context, if you look at all of the positives that I've mentioned earlier for Defence Forces personnel, they would have affected the Air Corps as well in terms of the starting salaries, in terms of the increase in recruitment ages.
Sorry, Secretary General, I don't want to interrupt you unnecessarily, but I want to know, was the Minister informed as far back as 2022?
In 2021, the report would have been completed, and then it wasn't sent as an e-submission to the Minister because there wasn't a crisis at that time. Since 2021, there was an increase in numbers, and we have 24/7 supplied a service from then up until the 2nd of June this year.
But you yourself wrote to Ken Spratt in March of 2021, I have the letter here, where you identified air traffic control as an impediment to SAR for the Air Corps.
So that would have been, as I've said, since 2021, we have produced the service. It has not stood down at any point in time, 24/7 since 2021 till 2025.
Do you want me to read your own letter?
I know I wrote that letter and I have it very much in my file. What I would say is that would have been taken on additional capability, and perhaps at that point in time there wasn't the capacity to do that. And as you know, we had decided that if the Air Corps was in a position to take on that capability, there was an option to do that in time, and that still remains the situation.
You expressed doubt yourself by virtue of the fact that air traffic control would be
Senator, if I could just intervene in the sense that I just want to confirm, is that letter in the public domain?
Absolutely. I acquired that letter through Freedom of Information, and I published it when I got it.
So as I said, I can't say it any more explicitly, but the service has been stood up since 2021. There has not been a diminution in service.
That's not the point. I'm asking you. You knew there was a problem.
You're asking me, were we going to take on an additional service? And the answer was no. There was a caution around that.
You knew there was a problem. Did you? Now, that was March of 21. Then in December of 21, you were aware of the fact that now the joint working group saw a crisis coming. and you were required under terms of reference to inform the Minister. Did you inform the Minister?
Sorry, there wasn't a crisis in 2021. In 2021, the numbers went up in the air traffic
You
controllers.
were warned it was coming.
That hasn't materialised. We have risks, we have a myriad of risks that cover our entire risk register. Some of them crystallise, some of them don't. That is part and parcel of running a business and running an operation.
So when we talk about risk, there is a requirement, and maybe you won't be able to answer this, maybe the GOC will be the one to answer. There's a requirement with respect to the management of our airspace. There is a military civilian airspace. Has there been engagement with your department, with the Irish Aviation Authority or the AirNav Ireland now, I think it is? Have they been informed of the situation?
Yes, there has.
Is there a problem with respect to Bristow's, where they're located now on within military airspace? Is that problem being dealt with? Where are we with that?
So there has been engagement. I'm quite happy for the GOC to take this.
Thanks, Senator. I suppose the airspace within which we operate around Baldonnel is quite a complex one, with mountains to South Dublin Airport and obviously Weston there. When we're not active in Baldonnel, there is a restriction in terms of what airspace is affecting. So if we're not operating on the weekend, aircraft will come close to Baldonnel. There is restricted airspace around that purely for the Garda Air Support Unit in relation to that. And we have been in contact with AirNav Ireland and the IAA in relation to this.
Very last point, because my time is running out. You mentioned the purchase of 4 helicopters. The Gardaí went to public tender for its helicopters and bought them at about 12.5 to 16 million. We did not, the Defence Forces did not go to public tender. You purchased them direct. My understanding is they're costing 28 million each. Where is the policy decision there? What about protecting the public funds, taxpayers' money?
So I'm not quite sure that they're like for like.
Yeah, I'll just come in there again. These are a military spec helicopter. And I suppose the shift as we move towards an Air Force for the whole Defence Forces piece is that war fighting becomes part of our lexicon now. So the aircraft are military spec aircraft and will be different to the civilian version in relation to that. As regards the exact cost, I don't have that in front of me.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, should it not have gone to tender, in your view?
We follow the procurement policy that we have, and we have a variety of different policies that we do that, and I can assure you that as far as I'm concerned, that we have observed whatever procurement policy.
You cite in March 21 that if you were to buy helicopters for SAR, it would be through public procurement tender, which would take a long period of time, yet you went and bought 4 helicopters without a tender.
Senator, we're now in 2025, the world has changed, and the methods of purchasing have changed completely, and they're changing still.
Taxpayers' money hasn't changed.
They are changing still.
Taxpayers' money you're spending. Thank you very much, Laska Herlock. So, we were aware of an impending crisis, as I said, back in 2021, but it became an actual crisis in October 24. I would like to know, when was the Minister informed of the crisis, and why has it taken until June 2025 to deal with it? I want to put all my questions on the table, if you don't mind. Specialist pay. You're going to commission all air traffic controllers. Now, I understand that grade 6 pay, or tech pay 6, is not available to officers. So, by commissioning air traffic controllers, are you going to make their terms and conditions worse? And I need to know today how many people have been offered the service commitment scheme. How many people have had an offer made to them at this stage, given the level of crisis that we have? A couple of final ones. Primary radar, we'll have primary radar shortly, and who's going to operate it if we don't have the air traffic control people? I'm interested in the overall infrastructure in Baldonnel, and just a question. The air traffic control tower itself, how old is it? When was it commissioned? And finally, you have 2 new aircraft coming. Are the hangars there for them? And will they be there in time if they're not? So a lot of questions there, but I need to get them out in 5 minutes.
I'll start, Senator, if that's okay, and I'll work through it, and then I might hand over then to my colleagues as well. So in terms of this particular issue, the one that we've been discussing this evening, we do have a comprehensive risk register. Risks are anticipated. Many, thankfully, as I said, do not crystallise. This one did crystallise during 2024 when it was anticipated that Western were coming in and that potentially, because of this shortage, they would be looking for qualified staff, and it was anticipated then that potentially there could be an option to poach our highly trained and skilled personnel. As I said, it was brought to senior management level, and we addressed that, but there wasn't an impact. We continued to provide 24-hour service, 24/7 service all the way through up until the 2nd of June. So when the issue materialised in terms of, we knew then that people were actually going for jobs, they were being offered jobs. This was in May, and that's when the Taoiseach, and I think he has recorded that in the Dáil, to say that that was when he was informed. In relation to Tech Pay 6 and how many people have been, the Tech Pay 6, I think you've said it's not available to officers.
That's my understanding.
Is that right? Yeah. But there are... Oh, you cover the pay bit, that's okay. And the infrastructure in Baldonnel, in terms of the air traffic control tower, there is a plan to replace that. What we have done is a master plan, and that will cover a whole series of different actions that are going to be taken. This is actually what we're trying to do with these, is not go in and do one piece at a time. It's actually to go in, get the money that we can agree through the National Development Plan in order to go into a master plan and actually develop the whole lot at one time. So the air traffic controller tower is one of those, that's and the hangars for the new aircraft as well. So it's planning ahead for all of that. So it's the capability plan tells us when we're going to get our new capability, and then these master plans will facilitate that we're able to accommodate any new accommodation when it's required.
And offers on service commitment, how many have been offered now?
So I'm going to hand over to the Chief and to the GOC. Are you happy to take those?
Yeah, well, cover the specialist pay bit first,
Yep.
maybe, and then come back to the service commitment scheme, if that's okay.
Yep. In terms of just the tech pay, you're right. Officers don't receive the tech pay, but they get a watchkeeper's allowance once they're qualified, which would be significantly more than the tech pay piece in that as well. So that will override that one. In terms of the service commitment scheme, it's just engaging with them, with the personnel at this particular stage to see what the piece is in relation to that. And we're just in that process at the moment.
But nobody has been offered yet, is that correct?
It has been discussed with the personnel, and I don't have an update on that from this afternoon.
Okay, because that is rather concerning if we're... Now, Section, I've got to go back to you on this. You talk about Bristow's moving in. We knew Bristow's were moving to Weston a long, long time before 2024. So we did.
So as I said, in terms of risk, it's a profile there. We have a problem. We could have people targeting any of the services, any of the specifically. These are all of our Defence Force personnel are very highly trained, and the state invests in them very significantly. At any point in time. But in terms of crystallising that risk, it's very difficult to get exceptional measures until potentially you have a risk that then materialises.
Have you worked out the terms and conditions for the service commitment scheme? Because what I've seen is that you were simply taking the one that was given to pilots and transferring it to air traffic controllers. That surely there are two very different occupations.
So we are, as the GOC says, we are working intensely on this issue. We obviously had to prepare for today, which is a very welcome occasion to discuss these matters with you today. But we have to work intensely, and the minute we finish here, we'll be going back to discuss further on those issues. But we have largely worked out a significant amount of them, and as the GOC says, we are discussing all of this with the personnel involved, and hopefully that will bear fruition. That will come to fruition, and positive fruition, we would hope, in the coming days.
Would you agree most of the ones that are about to leave do not meet the 12-year criteria? There's a 12-year lapse for pilots. You have 12-year service.
So this is an air traffic controller scheme, and we are working out the details on that.
Thank you.
It's not worked out yet.
Deputy Callahan.
A couple of things. Terms and conditions have not yet been agreed for the service commitment scheme for air traffic controllers. Therefore, no offer can be on the table at this point in time. I want to know, is that true or false? And secondly, for the Chief of Staff, direct entry, and maybe the GOC as well, direct entry, will those who are either direct entry or promoted now to officer rank from air traffic control, will they have to undergo such things as command and staff courses in order to progress through the ranks?
I'll take the course one first. So it depends on, for at the moment, the intention is that the commissioning from the rank scheme for air traffic service will be exclusively for service within that particular unit. So there are a number of senior appointments in that. So if an individual wanted to go from one rank to another rank, they would conduct the normal career course in line with their colleagues in other services. The assistant head of or the assistant secretary in charge of HR is we're looking at a future promotion system as well, and again that's something we'll engage with PD4 and RACOAN to look at how we would do that in the future. But for wider direct entry competitions, we take anyone in from an engineer or a cyber specialist, for example, and they serve a number of years in an engineer or a CIS unit. If they want to advance from one rank to another, they conduct the career courses. It's part of professional development as well as their technical competence as well, but gives them a sense of assurance, and it develops them into better leaders in the future. So we have no problem with that.
So in relation to the terms and conditions, yes, the original, when the Taoiseach advocated this, it was mirrored on the pilot scheme, and that is exactly the terms and conditions that we're looking at. There is a slight change in terms of the undertaking, and that's being discussed with the personnel at this point in time.
I understand 5 won't qualify if you're using the same criteria as the officers.
So I think at the moment, to be fair, Senator, we're in the middle of discussions with those personnel, and it would be incorrect to have that discussion in a public forum.
Okay.
So there are no offers right now?
There are offers, and they have been discussed, as the Chief has said. We have discussed it with the personnel there, and there is still discussions intensely going on